Welcome to Season 4 of the Builders Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Levenhagen. This season, we're exploring the human behind the builders, the stories, experiences, and defining moments that shape the people who build great businesses. Builders helping builders. Enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another The Builders. Today, we are joined by Malcolm Reid Sr. So I was going to say Jr. See, I knew I could mess it up. We were just talking about this. Like when I mess up a name, it just makes me human. Welcome to the show, Malcolm.
Matt, it's a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
Malcolm, you are the CEO, founder of Pro Global Business Advisors, and tell us a little bit about what you guys do over there. If I take a minute and just kind of give us an understanding of kind of what you do on a daily basis.
Yeah, 30,000-foot view. The small business owner is the bedrock of our economy and our communities. And small business coaches and advisors are out there attempting to help these small businesses grow. And Matt, what we discovered is that in an unregulated industry, there's so many people that slap, business coach on their business card and they have no business coach in a flea. And it's causing a lot of harm. And so what we do is, business coaches and advisors, they come to us and we build their entire business systems for them. Sort of like a franchise, but it's not branded to us. It's branded to our clients. But the whole key is to ensure that business coach and advisor has the tools, resources, and support to actually grow the small businesses that they're helping.
Very nice. It's hard. There's a lot of pieces to running a business, and to have somebody that can help them and have the infrastructure framework, something out of the box. That's great. So we'll talk about that more. But before we do that, when we have somebody on the podcast for the first time, we like to get to know you a little bit, hear about your story, your origin story, how you became the man you are today, doing the great things in the world you're doing. Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, however you want to construct that story.
Well, the good thing about it, Matt, is, I grew up in the slums of Baltimore, Maryland. And, where I was from, being a business owner was just not part of the story. I mean, it wasn't even in my purview at all to think about owning the business. I just wanted to survive to be 13 years old. That was in and of itself was a major feat because, I was surrounded by, murder and drugs and abuse and all things bad. The thing though, Matt, is from a little boy growing up, it was normal. Like I had no idea that we were poor. We had roaches and rats lived in the house and we didn't have much. There was 11 people that lived in a 3-bedroom rundown home with barely have any, a lot of times no heat, no electricity, no food, but I didn't know any better. So, I look back and I had so much fun, but I didn't realize the danger and all the stuff that was around me until I got a little older and looked back,
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's something. I actually, this is my history, but about 25 years ago, I had this little contracting business and I did work in like the inner city of Milwaukee and stuff. And I remember I come from a small town. I'd lived in the city for 10 years, but I'd never been in that area. And I just remember going down there and all the work we did down there and stuff. And it was a different world. But like for me, I never knew that wasn't definitely not my normal. But yeah, when you grow up in that kind of bubble, you don't know any different.
No, you didn't. And things like just to kind of paint a picture, imagine we lived in row houses, right? And, there's the street would maybe have, 15 blocks. So if I lived in the 1700 block of the street I lived on, Enzer Street. If you walk to the 1600 block, you have to be hyper vigilant because you may get jumped just because you don't belong there. So even navigating walking to school or navigating just doing something as walking to the store, you learn very early on which way to go, how to assess danger. I mean, I'm 5 years old, 6 years old. I know these things. I know that there's drug dealers on the corner, right? It just was the norm. The other part of that, though, there were a lot of good lifelong lessons that I've learned because I learned a lot about people.
Mhm.
I've it's something I can't explain, but it's this ability that I have this innate ability that within a few moments of talking to someone, I haven't met them, like, but I don't know them personally, but I've met them 1,000 times, and I can discern different types of people very quickly just from being in that type of environment. The other thing too, you build us resilience, this unbreakable will to when you survive, when you're living to survive and you're not living to thrive, right? There's little things like I learned how to budget really well. When you have no money, you can make a we say you can take a dollar, make a dollar out of 15 cents. Well, we could, right?
Yeah.
And we got very resourceful, Matt. So there's a lot of lessons I have today that I didn't necessarily get from a formal education, but the life education coming from the streets of Baltimore definitely helped shape and form the way that I do things even to this day.
Yeah, I suppose, I mean, like, I'm thinking about being able to read somebody. I suppose in that environment, you have to. That's how you
Yeah,
survive, right?
yeah, yeah.
That was one of the things that this isn't my story, but but I
Yes.
just to share, like, I remember being down there and people were looking out for me because I'm just, you know, I'm me. I'm just down there.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, but the people I was working for did, and I had things happen down there. It was kind of I got some interesting stories, but I didn't know how to read the situation. But luckily, I had people around me, around my crew, that did,
Yeah.
and but yeah, that's really really interesting, and I suppose that kind of informs or helps you through life. How did you how did you avoid falling into the pitfalls of crime or whatever?
Yeah.
How did you avoid? Did you have people around you that influenced you, or inspired you, or that helped you stay on the right course or get on the
Oh,
right
no,
course?
I didn't stay on the right course. So I
You
did not
didn't.
avoid
Okay.
those pitfalls. No, everybody around me, we were all very similar and we did what we saw. We didn't have any money, so it was very attractive that the drug dealers, they had nice cars, they had
Yeah.
women, they seemed to have this life that was glamorous, and so they had nice clothes. So that's what we emulated. So, I mean, I didn't like school for two reasons. One, it was boring. I would get my work done before everyone else, and so I would get into a lot of trouble and pick on the other kids. But anyway, and the other part of it is because school wasn't cool.
Mhm.
And so 10th grade, I was done. I was done with school. Look, Matt, I had this genius idea. I don't know why that I'm going to drop out of high school. And by the time all of my peers went to college and had their college degree, they were going to work for me. I don't know why I
Oh,
thought that. I said, I'm going to go get me a general education diploma, get a GED. They're going to spend all this money in college and then they're going to use those degrees to make me money. That was my mindset after I got off the streets. But anyway, back to that, man, I dropped out of high school in 10th grade, right? So, I'm not doing anything any good. So, no, I fell into doing everything that was around me. I sold drugs, ended up becoming a convicted felon, got a 5-year prison sentence for
wow.
selling, drugs. And so here you go, have a high school dropout, convicted felon. What are the prospects that someone like me, from that background, is going to do anything positive, right? And so here I am, a young adult with really no career path in front of me. But here's what I did say though. It wasn't that it was someone in particular. I just was paying attention to what's around me and in all the morals, the values, the lessons that my parents taught me. And I'm seeing my friends die. I'm seeing some of my other friends in prison forever. And I asked myself, really, do you want that life, Malcolm? Is that what you want your story to be? I said, no. I came to the conclusion, Matt, that just because, first of all, that I wasn't a victim. I had to recognize that I'm not a victim here. The system isn't against me. Society isn't against me. I had to first of all recognize that and realize that I made some bad choices, but what got me to the point that I was has no bearing on where I can go. And so I made that decision that I said, you know what, I'm not responsible for where I was raised. None of those things was my responsibility, but I am accountable for what I do moving forward. And I said, I'm going to take all these things that I've done that harm people, hurt people, and I'm going to flip that and try to find ways to do something good.
Where does that come from, though? Like, where is that? Is that just something inside you, that, or you saw you saw what could be possible, or like,
Yeah.
I mean, you're in that environment and now you're in prison, and there's a lot of people that don't get out of that, that
Yeah.
don't suddenly have that aha moment, like, I
Yeah.
don't need to do this.
All the lessons that came from my parents. I could hear
Your
my
parents?
parents, yeah. And there were other, like, good people in the
Mm,
slums of Baltimore. Everyone wasn't bad, but what I saw that's what I saw overall. But, you know, we were always taught to do the right thing. So it wasn't like our parents didn't raise us right. They did. We were raised in a religious household. We were taught right from wrong. I watched my mom do well. I watched my dad do well. So it was there. I had that foundation was there already. The challenge, Matt, was when you're in an environment like that and you're kind or nice, you get taken advantage of.
all right. Yeah.
So what I had to do is I was putting on really, when I look back on it, it was a mask. It's like I had to be hard and I had to be, appear to be have no feelings, right? Because then I could survive because that's otherwise you get eaten alive. And so it got to the point as I'm growing, I'm saying, this doesn't feel good not to be who I really am. If anything, I feel odd and awkward, being around these people who don't care about others and who don't have like the type of upbringing that I had. So that's what it really was. There was conflict with who really are you, Malcolm? And I didn't belong in prison. I mean, that wasn't for me. I didn't, selling drugs wasn't something I was proud of. I
Hmm.
had the ability to do more and I knew it.
Nice. So it has a lot to do with your upbringing, and
Absolutely.
that's good. I'm glad. That's good for you. But it makes me think, like, how many people are wearing that mask out there, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And but they got to find and that has to come from inside too. They got to want to change and all that. So what happens? So you went to prison. How old were you when you went to prison?
I was 21,
21.
21 years
And
old.
up to
21.
that point, you weren't doing much with your life, I assume, besides selling
No,
drugs
just
and
running
doing
the
your thing and just
streets,
having fun.
having
Yeah.
fun, making bad choices, what appeared to be
Yeah.
fun,
Yeah.
wrecking havoc.
Yeah.
Right?
I can
But you
relate
know
to that a
what
little
was
bit. A little
crazy
bit. Not
though?
quite. Not on the selling drugs part, but I was
Yeah, you know what was
very young
crazy?
and crazy.
Domino's Pizza, I remember they came out, right? And before then, you didn't have pizza delivery in 30 minutes or it's free and have a whole network and infrastructure of around delivery. And I thought it was fascinating because the drug dealers would stand on the corner and sell drugs that way. I remember reading something that you don't have to take a good idea and make it better. And so I modeled my drug business behind Domino's. We didn't stand on the corners. We had delivery services. We delivered by bike, by motorcycle, right, and by
That's
car. So
fantastic. Yeah.
so we had our pagers. People would put in their order. We had a code, and then we would distribute it and deliver it. But here's the thing: think about this. We had distribution. I understood profit and loss. Understood margins. Just doing it for the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the people that I've ran across are really smart. They have the attributes to be successful business owners, but just using those skills in the wrong manner.
Yeah. Yeah. If you could just plug that into something more above board, you'd
Yeah,
be so
yeah,
wow. That's actually really, really interesting. That's insightful. Yeah, because I mean, you're doing bad things, but you were still learning how to run a business and learn and study your competition,
yeah,
figure out how to do it better.
yeah,
Wow. So that's your foundation. So you go to
yeah.
prison and you come out of prison, and before you came out, were you already thinking, I need to change my life, or was that
Oh
like
yeah.
when you? Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, when I got arrested, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. They knew nothing about me. I wasn't on the radar of anyone, any law
Mm,
enforcement. There was an acquaintance of mine who asked me to go to lunch, and I just happened to stop past his house. And when I went into his house, but I'm telling you, 3 or 4 minutes later, they raided his home. They were,
mm,
and what ended up happening, the guy. he skipped town, and they labeled me as his supplier. They never seen me before, never met me before, so I got entangled with someone else. Now, again, I wasn't a victim because I was doing the wrong thing. And no, once that happened, I definitely, even before then, was like, I just can't continue to do this. I didn't feel good about it, Matt. And afterwards, I vowed I would never, ever go back.
Well, that's
And
kind of you're kind of reframing it. Like a lot of people don't. They stay the victim. But some you the way you did it, there was a switch in your brain. We're like, wait,
yeah,
no,
no, I
this
had to own it.
I put myself in this situation.
Yeah, yeah. Because I'm around the wrong people, I'm making bad choices,
Yeah.
and even to this day, right? I don't always make the right decisions, right? But introspection, I am completely and personally accountable for every decision I make, and I believe that the only way that anyone continue to grow is first is acceptance, accepting that,
Mm.
all right, this may not have worked, this wasn't wrong, I own it. If I've harmed someone, apologize, make amends for that, and then make a better choice, right? And so again, I was taught that growing up. My parents did hold us accountable for when we did wrong things, we were accountable. When we did the right things, there was a reward. So consequence or reward, right? I have to
It's
be
good
man enough
parenting.
to own
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's good parenting. So, okay, so you leave. So, what do you do after that?
The very first thing I did was I had to try to figure out how am I going to make money
Hmm.
and do it the right way. What I didn't tell you is when I was younger, because we were so poor, I had an entrepreneurial spirit outside of selling drugs. I owned a frozen cup stand, meaning I would take some Kool-Aid and make it really, really sweet and then freeze it and then sell it to the kids in the neighborhood. Um, I was also what they call a squeegee kid, meaning I will go fill up some formula and go in the corner, spray the windshields and clean off the windshields and make money that
Wow.
way, or go to the supermarket and carry grocery bags for family. So I did those types of things to earn money. So I've always been one who was willing to hustle and work. What I decided to do, I had the grandiose idea that I'm going to go into promotions. I'm going to start promoting concerts and get in the music industry.
Oh,
So what was interesting is I held a talent show and I was giving away $1,000 to the grand as a grand prize. Matt, I had no money, okay, but I said I'm gonna give away $1,000. I called the radio station, convinced them to actually come in and be one of the judges. I call it the Maryland Talent Festival. It's the biggest talent show that the state of Maryland has ever seen. Now, what I did is I held auditions. I went to the YWCA. I would give them a percentage as a contribution. They let me use their auditorium and I charged people to audition. So I made enough money from the auditions
sure.
to pay for the ticket, it's getting printed, the
Sounds like a
flyers.
Ponzi scheme here.
I made enough money to cover all my expenses, and then the contestants sold the tickets. If there were 40 contestants over 2 days, they had to sell a minimum of 20 tickets each. And so I ended up making, I think, 15, 20 grand doing a
Nice.
concert. I mean, not even a concert, it was a talent show. And I said, I'm on to something. And
Hmm.
from there, it grew into a local record label. And I spent time in the music industry after that,
No
singing,
kidding.
writing, producing music.
So you always had an interest in music from a young age,
Not
I would
really.
imagine.
I
No,
was
or it
singing
just
one day
came
and
out of.
somebody said that I could sing. And
Oh,
yeah, I said, really? Like, you know,
and you understood, but you must listen to music and understood talent and to have maybe not. Maybe you were
yeah,
just
I
like,
did.
let me
I
try
listened to
this.
music enough to do that, and then I ended up joining a band, and
Really?
we were really popular locally. Had a few songs that we released, but I thought that was going to be my calling.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to end up. Actually, I had opportunities to sign, record contracts with some major labels, but I ended up having a son at an early age. At 19, I had my son Malcolm Jr., who you were going to call me in the beginning,
Yeah.
and I made a
Sorry.
decision. I'm like, either take this path and never spend time with him or do something different and be a good father. And I chose to be the good father.
Wow. Yeah, that's a fork in the road. That's a lot of people have to make that decision, and
It
you
was
chose the
tough.
right one, I think, right?
Yeah, it
I
was
mean, it's
tough.
tough. I mean, you have your
Yeah.
dreams, you're
Yeah.
doing something, you have momentum,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
but something in you also wanted to have a family.
Absolutely. And I look
Yeah.
back on it now again, Matt, it was I thank Malcolm back then for making that decision because I would not have survived the music industry.
Mm,
I wasn't mature enough at that age to deal with that level of income. I probably would have been influenced to, do drugs or and some of the other things that
right.
happen, the dark side of the industry a lot of people don't talk about. I look at back on it now, it's like, oh, it's the best decision I ever made because I would have gotten eaten alive.
Good. So after the that music, and so what did you do after that? That's the
Then,
question.
so after that, I found my footing. I was, doing telemarketing, selling newspaper subscriptions. I worked fast food prior to that, doing telemarketing, selling newspaper subscriptions. And then I saw this ad in a newspaper for collections. I'm like, what is that? And it was a bill collector, collecting past due accounts. And so this collection agency hired me. They trained me. I did really well. I found out that I had an ability to listen. Not only
Hmm.
could I discern types of people, but I could hear what people not only what they were saying, Matt, but what they weren't saying. But I had compassion. And so I wasn't the guy calling people up and demanding they pay in full with no heart. I would listen to them and I found out that most people that were in those situations just ran into some type of unforeseen circumstance. They may have lost a job, medical expenses, yada yada, divorce, whatever.
Sure.
They just needed a break. They needed some help. And so I would help them. And I became the top bill collector in my state and became in demand. And so other collection agencies would come and they would pay me a little bit more. So I found a career in the collection industry. And it taught me how to overcome objections. It taught me how to have thick skin because people didn't like us, right? But it also taught me how to negotiate and have compassion and hear things that most people aren't willing to really listen and hear.
Uh,
And after that, I started a business helping the same people. I opened a company called American Fair Credit Association where we helped the same people who had bad credit but to rebuild. I created an affinity partnership with the bank who would give them unsecured credit and report it to the credit bureau. And then we taught people how to read their credit and how to understand, what their credit looked like, how to budget, just basic skills around money that no one ever really taught them. And we would help people rebuild. And I did that for a number of years until my corporate office in 1999 burned to the ground. Um, so yeah.
whoa. Okay. That will end things. That's one way to end things. Will end it burning literally to the ground. I'm always fascinated. When you look at somebody's journey and what they've all been through, is like there's two things at play here. You're learning from everything you're doing. Everything you've done, there were lessons
Mhm.
from the music, from things you did even prior to prison
Yeah.
to after the music industry, but then also doing the collections. You're always learning, and you're always finding, you know, what you did kind of is building on what you've done.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You're learning, you're becoming better,
Mhm.
and you're learning things about yourself.
Mhm.
Like you learn compassion. Oh, I at some point it sounds like, oh, I really like helping people.
Matt, you nailed it. That's what it came
Yeah.
down to. See, on the streets, I was helping people then when I was selling drugs because I was the one who was doing it, but I was still taking care of but my workers, I was taking care of them and making sure they were
Mm.
okay, right? So yes, I've always enjoyed helping people. And even to this day, when I can just play like a little small role and helping someone else achieve their dreams, their goals, their aspirations, it's just something that does for me. It's indescribable. And it always has, though, to really support someone else, to help them thrive. It's always been something that I really value and enjoy.
Like to help you kind of see a transformation in people if you're helping them or getting them through something, and
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you're and tell me more about American Fair Credit.
Association. Yeah.
So
So
you
that's
where did how did this come about? Like, is this, you said you just like
so
did
what
this
ended up
thing?
happening is I had, I was three different collection agencies I worked for were bought out by other agencies, and I was out of a job. And I just
Mm,
got tired of like, okay, I'm doing the right thing, but then I'm here for a couple of years and then now I'm unemployed. And I'm like, I'm
right,
tired of my destiny being in the hands of other people. So I said, you know what? I'm really good at collecting money from people who are in these situations. I bet I can help them because there was nothing at that time designed to help people rebuild. You just were labeled. You had
right.
bad credit, you didn't pay your bill, and like you were labeled, as something bad. And so Carol Shelton Walker, she wrote the Your Credit Plan, which was a series that laid out fundamentals again about budgeting, saving for retirement, different things like that, like just basic financial information that people didn't have. It's not taught in schools, budgeting, finance, and all that, and
Right.
credit is not taught in school. So I said, hey, and I went to this bank. If someone's a part of our association, what are some of the benefits that they can get that can save them money, help them rebuild their credit, and not be in this situation again? And so we did that. We had like a coupon exchange and other money saving companies that would, give the association members benefits, and then the bank would offer them credit. We had mortgage companies, car dealerships that we partnered with, so that once we got this person rebuilt, they got the credit card, they got a second credit card. We would help them buy cars without getting taken advantage of. Um, that's where it came about. It's like, hey, and then we saw the more that we did, the more people we could help. We had 177 offices up and down the East Coast. And so we
Oh,
turned that into a biz op where, we started 7 offices locally, and then we would allow others, independent business owners, could come in and they could buy into our system, and we would go in, open the office, train them, teach them how to duplicate what we did successfully. Like I said, and then everything ran through our corporate office. When the corporate office burned down, um, it put everybody out of business because they relied on us for lead gen, for all their systems and et cetera. Yeah,
so it burns down. It didn't burn the people with it, though. You couldn't? Did the business? Was that the end of the business?
that was the end of the business. I attempted to rebuild it, but I built this thing from scratch. I mean,
Right.
renting a fax machine, a rundown office, and nothing to something I was really proud of.
Hmm.
But I wasn't smart enough at that point. I was 23 or 24 years old. I
Oh,
wasn't
you're
smart
still
enough.
only 20. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm young. I mean, I wasn't smart enough to have, maybe I was 25 in that range, but I wasn't smart enough to have business insurance. So,
Guess
when you
I wasn't gonna ask it.
no, I wasn't smart enough. I didn't
What
know.
else?
I didn't
Yeah.
have that
Right.
foresight, right? So
Right.
I,
Right.
I remember the news station, they were interviewing me on the news and they said, did you have insurance? I said, no. I said, what are you going to do? I don't know. So I went and I
Something
tried to
new.
rebuild it, couldn't, found another job in collections. They got bought out again. And that's what landed me in the automobile industry. I couldn't find a job. I'm a convicted felon. No one would hire me.
Oh,
Although
you
I had
saw
this
that.
skill
Yeah.
set, I don't have a high school diploma. I'm a convicted felon, so I can't get a job. Well, I got a couple jobs, but then they told me they couldn't hire me once they did the background check.
Right.
But the automobile industry, they gave me an exception and gave me a license to sell cars, and no one taught me how to do it. Matt, I
Just
just go ahead.
no to do what?
Sell cars. I got
Sell
a
cars.
job in the automobile industry to sell cars on commission.
And did you know anything about cars? I mean,
Nothing. I knew nothing about cars
this
at
is
all.
a pattern. I knew nothing.
Nothing about selling cars, and in
Just throwing
fact,
it.
I used to have remember, I'm a street guy. I used to have a gold
Yeah.
tooth in my mouth, in the front of my mouth with a champagne glass with bubbles. That's a Baltimore thing, gold teeth. Back then, it was a Baltimore thing. And, the manager who hired me got fired the next day for hiring someone like me.
No.
And my suits didn't fit. They were baggy, and I didn't know any better. I just had a suit and a tie and some
Right.
rundown shoes, and they didn't train me, man. They left me out there for just to fail. But I watched. I paid attention. I saw that people coming in the door didn't trust the car salesperson. They were reluctant.
Mm.
They were hesitant. I said, wait a minute. I ran this association. I used to work face to face with people all the time. And so that was the beginning of a process I called the 10 steps to the sale, where I was going to do a greeting completely different than everybody else. And I was going to have a process where I was going to let that person feel comfortable and know that they're not going to get taken advantage of. And it accelerated. I ended up becoming a general manager within 3 years,
Of
which is
course you
unheard
did.
of. That takes 15 years or
Yeah,
so. And I
yeah.
was in every department in the dealership and broke records for not only sales, but um, all their records for profitability. But the one thing that stood out, I also broke the record for customer satisfaction. I had the highest customer satisfaction ratings in every area of the dealership that I touched. And that led me to my dealership career where I became one of the most sought after dealership turnaround specialists. I would go to dealerships and turn them around from underperforming, bad reputation dealers to top performing, well recommended dealerships as well.
Gosh, you just have a natural ability to find yourself in a situation and just think your way through it. Like just observe and like I've been in situations like that in the past where it's like I have done things that I had no business doing as well in business or in career. And I would just sit and watch and observe and learn and figure out how I could do better or you know and it's the same for you. It's like, and I just wonder too, like you have so many, it's like these things you do seem to scale. And I think that would be a whole conversation, like how you sit for ideas, like how do you find these ideas? You're in it, you're doing it, you're surviving, but then it's like you must be constantly observing and looking and like we could also do this or we could do this better. Or you're like an
Yeah.
engineer out there figuring out how to do things better.
You know what I found is you solve one problem, you create another one. And I'm like, wait a minute, these things connect. All of these things are connecting. And so take for example, what we do is like with helping our clients, right? So for business coach, that one of their biggest challenges, they can't get like high quality, consistent lead flow. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, you solve that problem, right? Now what's the next problem, the next challenge? Well, they hate selling. So you get the lead. Now they don't have a duplicatable, repeatable way to enroll that person as a high paying customer. And they don't want to do it anyway. So imagine you solve both of those. Guess what? Now you have a problem: fulfillment. They don't have a systematic way of consistently driving results. So they're losing customers after a few months versus keeping them for years. Right. So I've learned that there's a journey that we all take. We may start here, but we're going to take certain steps along that journey. And the more things along that journey that are interconnected that you can solve, the more valuable you become.
And that's kind of, yeah, it's kind of how a business evolves. Like when you start something, you are solving for problems. That's really what it's all about, all
Yeah.
about in a way. And
Yeah.
especially if it's something new you're doing, like, oh, you didn't even think about, you solve that and like, yeah, it generates other problems or new problems come in. And you're really, but as business people, we're problem solvers at the end
That's
of the
what we
day. There's always going to be problems.
always.
But so you did that in the car industry. So you became an awesome salesman. And, did they throw you a little bit of training in there eventually? They like
No, I
no,
became
you
the
just still
trainer.
you became the trainer, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
became the trainer, right? I
I love
documented
that.
what did and didn't work, right? And that's from customer feedback, right?
Yeah,
And so ended up creating a process. And then what would happen? The salespeople didn't like me. I outworked them, and I worked smarter than them. And what would happen? Even the managers didn't like me much either because the general sales manager, would send me over to close the deals that the managers couldn't close, and they didn't like that much.
you're
And
outshining everybody.
that
Yeah.
wasn't my goal,
No, but this is
right?
you're
But
innately
that's what.
that's who you are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Even the general manager.
you drop you in,
Yeah,
and you're gonna do awesome,
I
no
have to
matter
figure it
what.
out.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
goes back to what we were talking about. My upbringing. When
yeah.
you're in an environment like that, it's survival. You learn certain skills, right? That resilience, you learn how to move, you learn how to read situations, people. Only difference is I had to be someone I wasn't. Whereas as I'm growing
Mm,
up as an adult, I could take those same skills, but be who I authentically am. And
right.
and that allowed me to connect with people on a real level, not a superficial level. People knew Matt, and to this day, they know you can tell, when you're around somebody, it takes a few moments and you can tell if this person's genuine or if that you get that icky feeling like, maybe
Yeah.
I should stay away.
But it
Yeah.
is a skill. I mean, like you might have had a rough childhood. You might have, upbringing, and but the lessons you learned, like I bartended in my 20s, right? I was a full-time bartender for like 4 or 5 years and part-time for a number of years. And I really credit that time. Like I was doing kind of sales off and on. I've done a lot of things, but I credit the actual bartending, not this, even the sales training in this, like I was like 19, 20 years old selling Encyclopedia Britannica and Kirby vacuum
Oh,
cleaners. I was trying,
yeah.
trying. I only sold a few, but as to, because yeah, but the bartending is where I credit the most to me kind of being able to connect with a wide range of humans and understand humanity a little bit
Yeah.
better. Like we had so many in the bar I worked with most of those years. We were positioned in a place where it was like there was millionaires, but then there was also people out of work and manufacturing, and then there was a
Mhm.
college. So it was just such a mixture of people coming to this bar. And I love that though, because I remember just having this aha moment and like just even thinking about my parents and stuff. Like there was like this weird aha moment where I'm like, oh, you start to see your parents and all these people like, oh, my parents are just people. They're not anything special either. Like,
Yes.
and you just learn about people's psychology and how to interact with people. I love that. But same for you. It's like that's something that's so valuable, even though you didn't do it on purpose. But it really informs what you're doing going forward. So you get out of the car business, and how do you end up what you're doing today? Is there anything in between there? Or you
Yeah, no.
let's
So I
land.
I spent years in the car business, and, I thought that I had found my calling. 'Cause remember, part of that is I don't know anybody that grew up and said, "You know what? When I grow up, I wanna sell cars." No one. So the people that I would hire or they were people who couldn't find a job. And so they's like, I'm gonna try this until something else better comes along. And so we do a
Mhm.
lot of people who were not in a good place. And to turn them, I love that part, to train them, have them turn their life around and start thriving again. I loved it. So I did all the hiring and I did the training, even though I was a GM. I made sure I trained people in my process. That leads me to say, though, I was making really good money,
Mhm.
but I was never home. I mean, my kids didn't see me. I was up at 7 a.m. I got home. It was after midnight every
That was
day.
the whole point of leaving the music industry was to be home.
Exactly. But so here I find myself making great money. I'm providing financially a lifestyle that I could only dream of. And I'm thinking that money I had arrived. But yet it was so empty, Matt. I mean, I couldn't enjoy the house that we lived in. Um, Almost cost me my marriage. My relationships with my children were strained at
Mm.
best. So here I am thinking that I'm doing this to take care of my family. And in reality, I'm not around to enjoy the people that I claim I love. And I remember this. I tried getting out a few times. It just did not work out. I I started a landscaping business. I loved it, but it just didn't pay the bills like I needed them to. Went back into the car industry. But when I was finally done, I remember it was a Saturday morning. And this guy who just did not, he was my boss and he was not a nice guy. And he said something to me on that Saturday morning. And I said, I'm done. And I came home and said to my wife, I said, baby, I quit and I'm going to go be a coach. She said, a what?
I was wondering what kind of wife you had.
Oh, what?
How is she going to
I'm like,
react
I'm
to
gonna
this?
be a
Yes.
coach. I'm gonna go help people. And I started off in the franchise space, helping families navigate the complexities of buying a franchise.
Hmm.
What I discovered, Matt, though, is even though these franchises had the systems all laid out, the training, they had success. A lot of the business owners still people were losing their life savings because they did not have the right mindset and the right support to be successful. And I said,
Mm.
if I can help the person become a better person and raise their skill set, then the business only can grow to the extent that the person does.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
I said, let me start coaching the person. Who did I discover some things, Matt? What I discovered is most people were the high achievers at their jobs. They worked harder than everyone else. They were driven, but that was the problem. They took themselves with them to this new thing, this new job that they created for themselves. So they were good at the thing they did. They were terrible at running the business. And that's kind of where my journey began on coaching small business owners. But then I found out I had some problems. I couldn't get consistent leads. If I got a lead, I didn't have a consistent way to convert them. It was kind of ad hoc. And then I'm like, okay, I'm
Okay.
getting clients now, but I couldn't keep them. And then I solved it. I solved all three of those things. And I said, wait a minute. This was around the time, this was right after my son passed away. Um, he was walking
You're
down the
so.
road and a distracted driver ran him over.
Oh
Um,
man.
yeah, it was
Sorry.
awful. He was 30 years old at the time. And he was an entrepreneur. Unlike me, he was extroverted, meaning he would tell everybody that he could run across what he did. I'm extremely introverted. I would rather talk to no one.
Mm.
And I realized that I was being really selfish by keeping this skill set to myself when there's tens of thousands of business coaches, consultants, service-based professionals that if they had this knowledge, we could make a bigger impact because I can only help one business at a time. But if I can duplicate what I've figured out and build it into a duplicatable system, whoa, we can make a bigger impact than what I could ever make on my own. And that was motivated definitely by me losing my son and realizing that keeping this to myself was really selfish. And that's what led to me actually building this entire, not just the technology and the software, but all the systems and support that helps the business coach, the consultant, and the B2B service-based professionals the way we do today.
Whew. Yeah, it's another lesson here where it's you're doing something and you're solving the problems like we're talked about. You're solving the next problem and the next problem, and then you solve them. It's like, well, now I have this thing. Other people could use what I just solved. Like I could package this or turn it into a
Yeah,
framework, or
yeah,
that's what a lot of people do that, and they end up making money selling the thing that yeah, it's that's really interesting. I think so. I would love to hear more about what you're doing, your framework, and that's a whole conversation. We already
yeah.
talked about this, that we could come back for a part two and pick up where we left off here, because I think we got the whole arc now. Your your amazing life, and it's got to. I mean, it's inspiring to me just hearing everything you've been through. But I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have had a rough beginning,
Yeah.
and maybe they're wearing that mask, and they're
Hmm.
like, I have other options.
Yes.
I can have agency and do something with my life. But yeah, so many lessons in there. But it's been great talking with you, Malcolm. If somebody wants to learn, but more about what you're doing right now, and they don't want to wait for part two, or maybe or maybe they're going to go to part two. It won't be long. It won't be long. It'll be within a few weeks, probably. Um, but where can they find you on the World Wide Web? Where can they learn more about you, or do you hang out? Do you hang out on LinkedIn or any cool
Oh
place
yeah,
like that?
I hang out on LinkedIn and all the social networks. But the biggest thing is this whole methodology we're talking about. The whole
Yeah,
framework. It's 22 no and low cost strategies that we use to grow a business, Matt. Meaning they don't have to increase marketing or ad spend or go hire a bunch of employees. It has nothing to do with that. It's money hidden right in front of their faces. And I wrote a book that outlines this process. It's called Massive Action. Right.
there you
And
go.
so if you're okay, I would just let your audience just get a copy of the book. They can go right
Sure.
to the website, get a copy of the book, and if they want to know more from there, they can always just reach out to us. But the website is 100K, so the number 100K leak, like a leaky faucet, 100Kleak.com. You can just download the book. The one thing I would say is that these are so simple and look like no-brainer type of strategies that it can make such an impact if someone was to really just apply them, and they compound on top of each other. So it's the compounding effect that'll make a big difference. And again, it doesn't cost you money to go do it. So I would encourage anyone to grab it, and if they any money they find, it's theirs. Go get it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that's the other thing with you. You like it was helping people, but it's the impact.
Yeah.
You want to have the greatest impact possible, and hopefully some people will go over and get that book, and you'll change some more lives.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Anyway, till next time, Malcolm. Thanks, Malcolm Sr. Malcolm Reid Sr.
This has been fun, Matt. Thanks for having me, my friend.
Till next time. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Builders Podcast. One more quick note about our sponsors. At Unified Web Design, we're passionate about doing better together, partnering with agencies and businesses to deliver exceptional web design, development, and ongoing support. And UnifiedLabs.ai is where we explore smart, practical ways to integrate AI directly into your website and e-commerce flows. From intelligent chatbots to marketing automation to back-end reporting, all with a strong focus on user experience and making your systems work smarter. If you haven't already, subscribe or follow to stay updated on future episodes. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, sharing it with someone who might benefit helps us grow this amazing community. Until next time, keep building smarter, bolder, and with purpose.